Hi everyone, and welcome to the State of the North. You're probably looking at the title of this video and wondering, hey man, there's a lot of stuff to talk about right now. Joe Burrow got injured, Hall of Fame game between the Browns and the Jets, all the intricacies of training camp, including multiple other injuries. Why don't you talk about those? And that is an entirely reasonable question. But one of the most important things I think we can do to predict what's going to happen in the future is to look back at the past and where you've been and the context surrounding that moment. And the more research I did into this past year, the more shocking of a story that I found. There's one of these teams in particular whose offseason perfectly foreshadowed where it would eventually end up. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to talk to you about the 2022 Chicago Bears and the wildest offseason you never heard about. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys like and subscribe so I can keep making content like this and try to get out there. I'm a small fish, big pond, so anything you can do would be very much appreciated. With that out of the way, let's dive into the video. If I were to tell you that Chicago had crime problem, I would not be making an original observation. According to Newsweek, there's 695 homicides during 2022, which is lower than 2020 and 2021. But Chicago, along with a lot of other places, has been dealing with a overall rise in crime ever since the pandemic. And there's an important reason I'm bringing this up is because your environment is going to play a role in your identity as a team, as an organization. Everything kind of works together. So, on top of these crime problems, you had some other news. Boeing, Caterpillar, Citadel, they all announced that they would be moving their corporate headquarters out of Chicago, which is a huge deal. And, this begs a really important question. I know I found myself asking, why? Why are you moving? And I'm going to let the billionaire owner sum it up best with when he talked to the Washington Post. Quote, I've had multiple colleagues mugged at gunpoint. I've had a colleague stabbed on the way to work. Countless issues of burglary. I mean, that's a really difficult backdrop with which to draw your talent to your city from. Yeah, no duh. Kind of hard to explain to the last guy why that position was open in the first place. Oh, but it doesn't. It would be one thing if it was just corporate talent leaving the city, but also football talent left the city. When Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus came to the team, there were a lot of contract issues, a lot of monetary baggage, so to speak. So you had to shed a lot of talent, one of which is Allen Robinson, a wide receiver who had a decent year with Chicago. He went over to the Los Angeles Rams, which that's not a great move when you have a young quarterback like Justin Fields. So you better have a plan to get some new wide receivers into the room. The other notable free agent that left Chicago was Khalil Mack, which, if you don't know, Khalil Mack is a very good defender, and he ended up getting traded to the Chargers for second round and a 6th round pick. Which, I mean, just looking at his resume, that seems kind of ridiculous. But again, this was all a move for Chicago to try to help clear the books and start anew. But just because they were doing that did not mean that they were not going to add new pieces. On the contrary, they had a plan for who they were going to bring in. So, first one, it's a pretty good idea. Bring in Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi was a Cincinnati Bengal defensive tackle who got injured previous season, but he was a phenomenal player when he was healthy. You get to add a good presence into your locker room. 3 years, $40.5 million. That's not a bad deal at all for the Bears. So this is obviously going to have a very positive. And he failed the physical. He failed the physical. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So it's very easy at this point in time to be a little bit pessimistic. You know, just because this Larry Ogunjobi did not work out does not mean that you can't still have a terrific offseason. So let's talk about some of the other moves that the Chicago Bears made. We're going to start with the first. So yeah, there's a Chicago Bear got arrested. So let's talk about the play a little bit and before anything else. So Byron Pringle, you know how I told you guys they got rid of Allen Robinson? Byron Pringle was a move to help to help solve that wide receiver room problem. So you know he played college, Butler Community College, Kansas State, and he was a wide receiver for Kansas City, and he gradually worked his way up to the 53-man roster. And he even caught Patrick Mahomes' first pass in Super Bowl 55, which is a phenomenal achievement. You know, it seems like you got a really gritty guy, and I mean, you know, I don't. Surely this is not too bad of an arrangement, and you know, that's one way to do it. Like when people throw out that he got arrested, you know, obviously there's like not every reason to get arrested for is equivalent, but I mean, doing donuts in a Hellcat with your young son in the car is definitely not a great look. Fun fact too, he also had a suspended driver's license when he did this, so he got double whammied with the misdemeanors. Again, this is not a great move for Chicago, a great look for Chicago, but you know, you got to have a positive attitude. So let's talk about the next offseason move that the Chicago Bears made. And this would be yeah, there's another one arrested. So let's talk about Matt Adams a little bit. You know, I said that they got rid of Khalil Mack. Well, Matt Adams was an attempt to help shore up that defense. He was a backup linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, drafted in the 7th round. He had decent stats when he was a college player for Houston. But you know, gotta stay positive here. Gotta stay positive. So how much trouble is he in? All right, according to USA Today, Chicago Bears linebacker Matt Adams was arrested and charged with multiple weapons offenses, including a misdemeanor, illegal gun possession, and possessing a high-capacity magazine and metal-piercing bullets. Are you kidding me? Metal-piercing bullets. Dude, what were you doing? Were you gonna try shooting at a tank? Come on, man. But hey, you know what? This is not the only offseason move that the Chicago Bears have made. Gotta stay positive. There's always there's always something good to talk about here. So let's get into the next move that they did to try to shore up that wide receiver room, which so yeah, another Chicago Bear was arrested. That makes three, gang. Three Bears arrested. Three. Trace Bears arrested. And yeah, as I was trying to allude to, he was in addition to trying to help fix that wide receiver room. I mean, he was a 7th-round pick for the Seahawks, and he was released from 4 different teams: Panthers, Raiders, Broncos, Packers, which, you know, it's not great. So, you know what? Hey, you know, let's just spin the crime wheel. Which charge do you think he has? Substance and weapons offenses. You know what? No. Ryan, where's the GM? Where's that GM? Ryan, Ryan, you look at me. You look at me. You look at me. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're supposed to be evaluating character before you make these deals. I mean, 4 off-season moves fell through. You gotta improve your game, man. What are you doing? If you guys think the off-season free agent stuff was the only absolute circus act that was going on during the summer of 22, you would be sadly mistaken. May I introduce you to the glorious mayor of the great city of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. If Lori Lightfoot's name sounds familiar, she was one of the few Chicago mayors to ever lose their re-election. And so, something that didn't get talked about, you hear a lot of these political pundits talking about is this thing or that issue that brought her down. Hey, maybe going after the Chicago Bears the summer before your election is not the best idea. Let me explain. So, the Chicago Bears have been reeling from a lot of ineptitude done in 2003 when Soldier Field was renovated. Soldier Field is owned by Chicago, but so the Bears cannot actually get benefits from the Bears, the stadium actually hosting other events. Furthermore, it decreased seating capacity, and the renovation was botched so bad it is removed from the list of historical landmarks. Furthermore, it's just a pain in the butt to get to. This doesn't have anything to do with the renovation, but it's an hour walk from Union Station, which, if you don't know, Union Station is the central hub where all the commuter trains from the suburbs roll in. So if you're going to go to a Bears game, you're probably not going to pay for parking. What you'd rather do is that you'd hop on the commuter trains and you'd walk over the stadium. But an hour walk outdoors in the freezing cold Chicago weather during the winter is not ideal. So the Bears ended up buying Arlington Park. So it's a little bit of racetrack in the northwest suburbs. It's about a 47-minute drive from Soldier Field. So it's still in the Chicago-y area. But yeah, even the Bears wanted to move to the suburbs. Which the Lori Lightfoot did not appreciate that move. In a statement, about that purchase, she said, quote, "Our city is home to some of the world's finest sports teams who have played a vital role in the city's reopening. As part of the city's recovery, many organizations are doubling down on their commitment to Chicago, and we expect the Chicago Bears to follow suit. The Bears are locked into a lease at Soldier Field until 2033. In addition, this announcement from the Bears comes in the midst of negotiations for improvements at Soldier Field. This is clearly a negotiating tactic that the Bears have used before. As a season ticket holder and longtime Bears fan, I am committed to keeping the Chicago name in our football team. And like most Bears fans, we want the organization to focus on putting a winning team on the field, beating the Packers finally, and being relevant past October. Everything else is just noise." Woo! That is quite the statement. I mean, using the terms "they are locked into the lease," that is not some positive language. Furthermore, as I told you again, this is a little bit of an accurate point that the mayor tried to make. They still keep the name Chicago. They're still in the Chicago area. They're literally moving a 50-minute drive away. They're still in Illinois. They're just, again, moving to the suburbs, not downtown Chicago. So, anyways, this media story kind of percolated more and more in the local news. Bears fans were debating, would this be a good thing or a bad thing? And so Lori Lightfoot decided to put in an ambitious plan together. She wants to buy the Bears. No, I know. I am not making this up. This was a very serious, very, very important proposal from a very serious mayor. So, it was like, hey, you know what? The Bears want to leave. We don't want the Bears to leave. Let's just buy the Bears. And important question. You're probably wondering, hey, my guy, how much would that even cost? $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion. That's what the Bears are worth right now. I mean, these are not your average circus bears. These are some pimped out Grizzlies. So, I, she people were clowning on her a little bit, so she ended up walking back the comments. Quote, she said, quote, I didn't say that I would support the city buying the Bears, but I think it's an interesting exercise for a feasibility study, Lightfoot said. We'll see what the members of the city council say. Well, wait, I go. You pawned it off on your friends in the city council. I'm sure they really appreciated that. But, okay. I just want to remind you guys again, $3.5 billion. This was absolutely bonkers, but it was a serious conversation that media people in Chicago had to have at the time. But once this stupid idea was finally quashed, Lloyd Lightfoot decided to move to a more serious proposal. Another very, very serious mayor. Which, hey, how about them? How about that? How about we just slap a dome, make other few reservations, and you guys stay? Which, I hate to be that guy, but that just wasn't gonna work. So, one important thing to realize is that when you guys are building something, like building a building, you need to have a really good foundation, and that foundation is determined by the overall size that you're expecting the building to be, and most importantly, how much weight that foundation is going to need to support. And I hate to tell you guys, I don't think that Soldier Field was designed to be able to handle the extra load of the dome. So you'd need to potentially redo the foundation, or find other creative ways to reinforce. I mean, you'd have to look at a bunch of other components on this thing too, because when you go to choose what to make certain parts and the dimensions of each part, you have a certain stress range or strain range, or different yield values that you are keeping in mind during the process of this design. So you potentially need to go in and fix all that too. And furthermore, just look at this right here. You see how this is non-uniform structures? That's going to be a pain in the butt to even mount a dome onto. Needless to say, that doesn't get into any of the other other issues that you would have to take into account, including now you got to worry about ventilation and all that other stuff, air conditioning, heating the entire stadium, and further, you'd have to probably redo the field anyways because the field itself stinks. So, if you didn't get the picture already, 2022, it was just an absolute media circus. But you didn't hear about it in the national news, which kind of baffles me. But if you're a local fan of Chicago, I mean, this stuff was all over your news feeds. I mean, it was just bad news after bad news after bad news. And for a moment, it looked like even though the offseason was crazy, that the Bears would be able to make it through. I mean, they went 3-0 in the preseason. First time since 1994. And on week 1, they defeated the San Francisco 49ers, one of the most stacked rosters in the entire league, 19-10. Oh, by the way, you know how I said that field stinks? I mean, look at this. This was a monsoon. They literally were trying to rake the water off the field during the game. But, after a surprising start, I mean, let's just see how the Bears did. 3-14. Considering all the stuff that happened, I mean, 3-14. That's bad. But again, with all the circus they're having, that isn't terrible. And but you even got the number 1 overall pick. I mean, who saw that coming at the start of the season? Yeah, man, the Bears are going to have a decent start. They're going to go on a 10-game losing streak at the end of the season and get the number 1 overall draft pick. I mean, I didn't see it coming. But this brings us to a really important question, because this is all the talk for the 2023 season is about, is Justin Fields going to take a leap forward? And you can kind of see some of his stats, from 2021 compared to 2022. And this was probably the most toxic working environment that you could have put a young quarterback in. I mean, just imagine this from your perspective. Let's say you get a new job, you're a year in, you got a new boss, you're doing entirely different stuff. You bring in 3 new people to the company. All of them get arrested, 2 of which you work directly with, because again, those 2 guys, 2 of those guys were wide receivers. And on top of it, your CEO is having a public feud with government officials. I mean, that's ridiculous. How on earth would you expect someone to succeed? But even despite that, Justin Fields was on pace to break Lamar Jackson's rookie record. I mean, look at those rushing yards, 1,143. So, honestly, I think things are going to look up for Chicago. For the first time, Justin Fields is going to have a little bit more of a stable environment. I mean, they may have gone 3-14 last year, but because they got the #1 overall pick, they're able to get DJ Moore. They're able to get a bunch of other draft picks. They're able to shore up their offensive line and their wide receiver room, including with an addition like Chase Claypool. So, and for this go around, hopefully Chicago will have the season it deserves, and hopefully we'll never have an off season that is so Chicago it hurts. Anyways, that'll be the end of the video. Hey, if you guys like what you saw, again, like and subscribe to the channel. This was definitely a really interesting topic, and if I be quite frank, if I didn't talk about this now, no one's ever going to talk about it. And I don't want this offseason to just fade into nothingness, because this was absolutely bonkers. So, again, make sure you like and subscribe. And with that out of the way, I'll see you in the next video.